Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video, where today I'm going over the updated rules for Orc Kommandos in the new edition. But thanks goes to Games Workshop providing these to review. And remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's review. What do you think of the changes? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. So let's get on with the review. And please remember, I am repeating the rules correctly, so the audio is correct. The title cards and stuff I'm using might be a little bit incorrect just because I'm either using abridged wording because there's so much to type, or I might have made a mistake because I edited these very late. So let's get on with it. So starting off with the roster, you have Infiltration and Seek and Destroy as your archetypes, which are unchanged and is actually a pretty good mix for Kommandos. Operative wise, you've still got your leader as the boss knob, so he can either have the big chopper or the power claw. Then you've got 9 other Kommandos which you can select from the list below. And if you select the bomb squig and the grot, they count as half an operative each. So that does mean you can still go up to 11 operatives if you take the grot and the bomb squig, which is nice. The fact they can still do that is pretty good. And then you still have your standard operative selection. For faction rules, they still have the throat slitters special rule, so they can charge from conceal, except for the bomb squig because it can never be on conceal. A nice unchanged rule, very, very powerful, usually limited to a particular operative, but this entire team can do it, so it's very, very good. For strategy ploys, first we have Daka. So friendly Kommandos ranged weapons have the punishing weapon rule, which is unchanged from last edition. It's just had an updated wording, so very nice there. For every crit you roll, you'll turn a miss into a hit. So very good, especially with the volume of dice that Kommandos continue to pump out. Then you've got War, which is not Warg, it's War. Friendly Kommando Operatives melee weapons have the balanced weapon rule. So this has actually been buffed because before, if you had 2 or more successes and you didn't roll any crits, you could turn a miss into a hit into a crit. Now it's just balanced. So their offensive output in melee has been buffed, which is very, very nice. Then you've got Skulk About. Whenever an enemy operative is shooting a friendly Kommando Operative that has a conceal order, you can retain one of your defense dice as a normal success without rolling it in addition to being in cover. So basically, if you're in cover, you automatically retain 2 dice. And even if you're in the open with a conceal order, you retain 1 dice. So very, very good, unchanged. Then you've got Shush. Each friendly Kommando Operative that's not a valid target for enemy operatives or has a conceal order and is more than 6 inches from enemy operatives can immediately perform a free dash action. You cannot use this ploy during the first turning point. So this has been actually nerfed in a number of ways. The first one is you can't do it turning point 1, and now you have to be not a valid target. So being a valid target is actually pretty easy. Anytime you have an engage order and are visible, you're a valid target. If you have a conceal order and you're behind cover, well, you're within control range of cover, then you're not a valid target. So if you're trying to keep anyone on engage, it's not easy to get that free dash. And then also you still need to be more than 6 inches. It's still very, very good, but all free dashes have basically been nerfed in this way that they can't be used turning point 1. But otherwise, a very good selection of strategy ploys. Then for firefight ploys, you have just to scratch. Use this when an attack dice inflicts normal damage on a friendly commando, except the bomb squig and the grot. You ignore that inflicted damage. Really good, unchanged. It still doesn't work on crits, but otherwise very, very good. Then you've got Crumpum. Use this firefight ploy at the end of the firefight phase. Select one friendly commando operative. It can immediately perform a free fight action. Unchanged, very good as well if you do like last activation, charge 2 operatives, fight someone, kill them, and then spend a CP to fight at the end of the turning point for someone else. Really good for also scoring Seek and Destroy attack ops, so nice. Then you've got Cunning but Brutal. Use this firefight ploy when a friendly operative that has a conceal order is fighting during an activation in which you perform the charge action. You're resolving the first attack dice, and it's a strike with a normal success. Treat that normal success as a crit instead. So basically, if you charge and you fight someone, and you still have a conceal order, when you first strike with a normal success, you can treat it as a crit instead. You can actually use this a number of ways. Let's say you need 2 crits, your opponent's rolled no crits, but you've got a crit and a hit. You can strike with that hit, turn it into a crit, and then strike with another crit. So it's situational, but nice. Then you've got Shake It Off, which replaces your forward deploy. Use this firefight ploy when a friendly operative is activated or when its APL stat is changed. Until the start of the next turning point, you can ignore any changes to its APL stat. So it's just a situational, you can't stun me, which is pretty good considering like stun grenades are going to probably be quite popular. It is a CP to negate it, but you ignore the changes until your start of the next turning point. So Actually really, really good. Situational, but nice. Obviously toned down because they don't have their forward deploy, but otherwise really good. For operatives, you have the boss knob. He has free APL, which is a buff because he used to be 2, 6-inch move, 5-up save, and 14 wounds. So he's lost a save. He used to be a 4-up save, he's now a 5-up save, but he's gone up from 11 wounds to 14. So very, very good there. His slugger is 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, 3-4, range 8, so buff by 2 inches of range. Has a big chopper, which is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, doesn't hit on 2s anymore. 5-6, punishing. So if you don't roll, if you roll any crits, you can turn a miss into a hit. So a nice actual kind of buff to the chopper. Obviously, you preferred it when it hit on 2s, and then the power claw is actually unchanged. So it's 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 5-7 brutal. I'm shocked they didn't make the commando knob 5 attacks. But I think the trade-off is your power claw still hits on 3s, whereas most power claws and power fists hit on 4s. So that's a good trade-off there. Then you've got Get It Done as a unique action. It's a support action. Select one friendly commando operative, excluding the bomb squig, visible and within 6, to give them +1 APL, and you can't do it while in control range or counteracting. So it's still good. Like, the issue is his +1 APL ability used to be free. Now he has to spend an action point. But now the knob himself is free APL. So I think overall, he's actually been buffed quite a lot and is very, very tanky now. He's effectively a Space Marine. Then you have the Bomb Squig, who is 2 APL, 6 wounds, 6-inch move, a 5-up save, and 5 wounds. It's been nerfed. It used to be 6 wounds, it's now 5 wounds. Has the explosive attacks, which is now 6 dice instead of 4. Hits on 4s instead of 3s, and is 4-5, blast 1, limited 1, explosive. So this has been nerfed as well. It used to be piercing 1 going into piercing 2 if you rolled any crits, and it used to be 5-6, but you do now roll 6 attack dice, and then it's still 3 attacks in combat, hitting on 4s, 4-5. So it's got explosive. This operative can perform the shoot action with this weapon while within control range of an enemy operative. Don't select a valid target. Instead, this operative is always the primary target and cannot be in cover or obscured. So basically, you always hit the bomb squig hits himself first, then it hits everyone within 1 inch of him, basically his control range. Has the boom special ability. If this operative is incapacitated during a battle which it hasn't used its explosives, roll 1d6 or 2d6 if you wish. If any result is a 4+, this operative performs a free shoot action with its explosives action before it's removed from the kill zone. Then you've got Stupid. In the firefight phase, whenever you determine this operative's order, you cannot select Conceal. It has to be on an Engage. This operative cannot perform any actions other than charge, dash, fight, reposition, or shoot, and cannot use any weapons that aren't in its data card. Then it's got Expendable. This operative is ignored for your opponent's kill, like elimination op, or when it's incapacitated and when determining the starting of number operatives. It's also ignored for other victory conditions, like escaping and surviving. So the bomb squig has actually changed quite a lot. The weirdest thing is, when it blows up, it doesn't die. Somehow it explodes and then believes, from the wording, because from the way it's worded, you could argue it doesn't actually specify it doesn't blow up. But I think it does, because as intended, it does say the bomb squig is the primary target. Regardless, it has technically been nerfed and it is easier to shoot, but it actually has been buffed because it doesn't count towards your kill op, your opponent's kill op. So you're still treated as a 10 operative team, and you can just throw this away. The bomb squig actually literally doesn't matter to you now. If it blows up, it's great. If your opponent kills it, it's fine. Your opponent is just trying to stop it. And when it charges into someone, because it's now rolling 6 dice, it should usually kill someone. Although if it's injured, it will be hitting on 5s. But I think the bomb squig overall has been nerfed slightly, but it's still just a useful throwaway piece. Then you've got the Kommando Boys. So this is your standard operative. They have a slugger and chopper. They're 2 APL, 6 wounds, 5-up save, and 10 wounds. So this is your standard format for your whole kill team. They have the new ability, well, their slugger is 4 attacks, 8 on 4s, 3-4, range 8, so it's been buffed by 2 inches. Your chopper is unchanged, 4 attacks, 8 on 3s, 4-5. Then has the tactical What's Nots ability. So you can do each of the following once per turning point. One friendly commando boy can perform the smoke grenade action, and then one friendly commando boy can perform the stun grenade action. The rules for these are found in the universal equipment, and performing these actions using the rule doesn't count towards the action limits, i.e. like if you selected them from equipment. So if you picked 2 smokes or another smoke and stun, it wouldn't limit your usage. And because you're always taking a minimum of 2 boys, this makes the boys even better. because turning point 1, if you've given them +1 APL, they could move dash smoke, move dash stun, or can just move smoke, and they can do this every turning point. So if you're trying to slowly safe up it, like slowly move up in stage, you now have at least one smoke and stun for free per turning point. So Kommando boys have been buffed. They're really, really good. Then you have the Breacher boy, who has the same profile. So there's a Slugger, which is unchanged, and then the Breacher Ram, which is now 4 attacks, used to be 3, hitting on 4s, used to hit on 3s, 5/5 brutal severe shock. So it now has all those rules built in. He has the breach ability for 1 action point. Place one of your breach marker within this operative's control range as close as possible to a terrain feature within control range of it. Whenever an operative is within 1 inch of the marker, it treats all parts of, treats all the part of that terrain feature as that are no more than 1 inch thick as having the accessible trait, so he effectively makes a door. This operative can perform this action during a charge or reposition action, and it can do it for 1 less AP during those actions, and then you can use any remaining move distance after to move again. So there's 3 key things. He now basically still does this for free in terms of like moving through terrain that's 1 inch. He either does it as an action or like 1 action point, or does it for free during a move or dash, or move or charge, reposition or charge. Then the other thing is, because he leaves a token, your whole team can use it. But remember, it says operative, not friendly or enemy. So your opponent can use them as well. So if you go too crazy with making all these breacher holes, it does mean your opponent will be able to follow them as well. So it's really funny. He is literally like the Juggernaut running through the walls. But it's nice. The Kommando, his melee has technically worsened because he's gone to 4s for hitting, but he has 4 attacks instead of 3s. So overall, I think he's a lot better. He's just slightly different and requires some more intelligent use, which I think Kommando players should be able to do. Then you've got the Burner boy. So he has the Burner still. So it's either got the standard or deluge profile. So it's 4 attacks hitting on 2s for standard, 3/3 damage, range 8, saturate, torrent 2. So more range, but now ignores cover. So okay. Then it's got the deluge profile, which is 4 attacks hitting on 2s, 3/3, range 4, saturate, seek light. So the change here, when you use your deluge profile, he has seek light, but he loses the torrent special rule. And you may think that's not too great, but actually on places like Into the Dark, this is actually really key, especially in points where the only cover is light cover or used by a barricade. So if you give this Kommando 3 APL, it can move, it can reposition, dash, and then use deluge. So that gives it a threat range of 13 inches. So it can actually threaten a lot of operatives. And then obviously it has fists, which are 3 attacks hitting on 3s, 3/4, which is the standard for any profile with fists. So I actually think the Kommando boy is actually quite interesting. And now because he does 3/3 damage base, he's actually a very, very solid shooter. Because when he was 5 attacks on 2s, 2/2, it wasn't that crazy. But now if you get 4 hits and your opponent save 1, they take 9 damage. So he's actually really, really dependable, especially considering the push to shooting this team has had. Makes me think like you basically always take the Burner boy. Maybe not into elites, but into every other opponent, I definitely would. Because even an 8 wound opponent with a 4-up save is quite likely to die from the Burner boy. Then you've got the Comms boy, who has the Shocker pistol, which I'm pretty sure used to be the Shock pistol. But 6 attacks hitting on 4s, unchanged, 1/0. So it's been buffed because it's now range 8 instead of 6, devastating 2, severe, and stun. So if you don't roll a crit, you proc a crit, and you turn a normal into a crit, and it has stun, so it's always doing minimum two wounds of damage. So the Shock pistol has been buffed, so he's actually really good, like popping around the corner and just firing some beats at people. Then he's got fists, and he's got I Got a Plan Lad. So once during each of this operative's activations, it can perform the pickup marker, place marker, or mission action for 1 less AP, which is unchanged, so he can like move and dash and do a mission action. Then he's got support for, listen in, which is a support action. Select 1 other friendly operative, except the bomb squig that's visible and within 6 to get +1 APO until the end of their next activation. Really good. Can't do it within control range, but great. So he's still pretty much unchanged. He's actually been buffed because now he's a better shooter. Like, especially if you just need to stun someone who's a key operative, like especially if they're on a point or something. The comms boy is really clutch for that, as well as doing those 3 mission actions and giving out APL. Then you've got the Daka boy, who has the Daka shooter, short range and long range. So for short range, it's 5 attacks hitting on 4s, 3/4, Range 6, Ceaseless. So this used to be Relentless, it's now Ceaseless. And then long range is still 5 attacks, 8 on 4s, free 4. It can still do Daka Dash, so for 1 AP, you can perform a free dash and a free shoot action with this Operative's Daka Shooter in any order of your choice. And you cannot do this while you have a conceal order or with engagement range of it, well, control range of an enemy Operative. So he's been nerfed. He used to be Relentless and is now Conceal, but still great. But you're still taking the Daka boy. He's just some nice threat, especially when you've got Daka up. Then you've got the Kommando Grot, who is 2 APL, 6-inch move, 5 up save, 5 wound, so unchanged there, and has the Grot Chopper, which is 3 attacks, 8 on 5s, 1-4. Unchanged, but funnily enough does benefit from War. Then Sneaky Zogger cannot have an engage order, but also has super conceal, so no matter what, as long as it's in cover, it cannot be shot at unless you're within 2 inches, so very good there. Then the Grappling Hook, which is basically unchanged. For 1 action point, select a visible point on a terrain feature for this Operative. Remove this Operative from the kill zone and set it back up within 1 inch horizontally at that point in a location that can be placed, not within control range of enemy Operatives, and with that point visible to it. And you cannot perform an Operate Hatch during this action, and then it's treated as a reposition action. You cannot perform this while within control range of enemy Operatives or during an activation which you perform the charge or fall back action. So effectively, the Kommando Grot is unchanged, works exactly as he did last edition. Very, very good. Then you've got the Rocket Boy, who has been changed. So he's a rocket launcher, is either aimed or mobile. For the aim profile, it's 6 attacks, 8 on 4s, 4-5, blast 1, ceaseless, heavy with dash only. Then mobile is 6 attacks, 8 on 4s, 4-5, blast 1. So it has been changed. He's lost Splash. He used to have Splash 2 inches, which is gone. And he used to have Relentless if he stayed still. Now he just gets Ceaseless, and it also gets heavy dash only. So if you use that profile for your entire activation, all you can do is dash. So the Rocket Boy has been nerfed quite a bit, but in response, it's gone up to 6 attacks. So I think that's actually a pretty fair trade-off, because 6 attacks are incredibly rare, and this isn't this is the second source of 6 attacks in this kill team. Technically it's a nerf because it's also lost, I believe it used to be piercing 1. But regardless, it is technically a nerf, but now you throw 6 dice, I think that outweighs it, because you would have almost a 70% chance to roll a crit. You're not doing any more devastating damage, but because you're just having 6 dice, you can threaten people who are even obscured, because, you are rolling 1 less dice to hit and you won't proc Daka. But if you rolled 6 hits, that would go down to 5 hits and basically kill anyone who's obscured. So it's really punishing to general equivalent teams if you've got the Rocket Boy, and even then, he can just blast through Marines. So I think the Rocket Boy is still great. Then you have the Slasher Boy. He has throwing knives, which are 4 attacks, 8 on 3s, 2-5, range 6 silent, so unchanged there. Remember, they are 5 damage on a crit. It's confusing. Then you've got Twin Choppers, which are 4 attacks, 8 on 3s, 4-5, ceaseless, lethal 5 up. So it used to be Relentless, it's now Ceaseless, which is a game-wide change. But in response, he's gained lethal 5 up. So I think that's a really good trade-off, considering this team doesn't have a reliable way to roll crits. So very nice there. Oddly great in the mirror. And then he's got Dat All You Got. After this Operative fights or retaliates, if it wasn't incapacitated, you can inflict D3 damage on the enemy Operative in that sequence. So before it used to be on a 4-up, you inflict 2 damage. Now, if you survive, you're always doing D3 damage. So he's lost a bit of accuracy, but now he's got lethal 5-up and always doing damage if he survives a combat. So very, very good. Then you've got the Sniper Boy. So his scoped big shooter has been changed. It used to be 6 attack dice. So you've got concealed, stationary, and sweeping. And then he's also got fists, which are 3 attacks, 8 on 3s, 3-4. So for the concealed profile, it's 5 attacks, 8 on 3s, 3-3, devastating 2, heavy, silent, concealed position. So concealed position, you can only use this profile once per game. So you can only fire silent once per game. Then you've got scoped big shooter stationary, which is 5 attacks, 8 on 3s, 3-3, devastating 2, heavy. And then you've got the sweeping profile, which is 5 attacks, 8 on 3s, 3-4, heavy dash only, torrent 1. So he's actually been nerfed. Firstly, you can't forward deploy him up the board. The other issue he has, they've given him a sweeping profile. I guess they didn't want to give him a 4th profile, but I would have rather lost the sweeping profile to have a mobile profile with his Daka, with his big shooter. Because at the moment, all he does turning point 1 is literally get into position, or you spend reposition to hopefully get into position. and then he has one silent shot, and then he shoots next turn from the open. He's definitely nerfed, but he's a much more of a punish piece instead of a bully piece before, where he would just deny an area of the kill zone, and then if he needed to, if you gave him +1 APL, he could move down, shoot someone, and then clear a point. So he's very static now instead of being a better Daka boy. So he's definitely nerfed, but he's still 5 attacks, and he's gone up from 2/2 damage to 3/3 damage, while still doing devastating 2. So overall, he's been nerfed, but he's still very, very good. He's no longer amazing like he used to be. Then for faction equipment, you have choppers. So for only Kommando operatives, excluding the bomb, squig, and grot, have the following melee weapon. Note that if an operative already has the chopper, then it isn't replaced. But if you don't have a chopper, you gain 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, 4/5. So unfortunately, you still take this. This is great because it now goes on every operative, but it's not 4 attacks anymore, but that hasn't been there for a while. I still think it's really good. It just means you're now always a threat instead of being 3/4. Just being base 4/5 means you can actually just bully 7 wound teams, and elites still have to, you know, accept they're probably going to take more damage now if they charge into you. So I think choppers are good. Then you've got the hopper. Then you've got the harpoon. So once per turning point, when a friendly operative is shooting, excluding the bomb, squig, or grot, you can use this weapon. So it's the harpoon. 8-inch range, used to be 6 inches. So it's 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, 4/5, lethal 5-up stun. So especially with Daka, now it's got a lethal 5-up. This is very, very good. So you're pretty much always taking this. It's great on, like, even a boy. You give a boy +1 APL, they charge, fight, and then they can shoot with a harpoon with Daka up. So very good with the harpoon. Then you've got dynamite. So once per battle, a friendly commando operative, excluding the grot or bomb, squig, can use the following ranged weapons. So dynamite, 5 attacks, used to be 4. Hits on 4s, used to be 3s, 4/5. It used to be 5/6. It's lost piercing 1. It's range 4, used to be 6-inch range. Blast 1, used to be 2-inch blast, heavy reposition only, but does have saturate. So obviously the dynamite's been nerfed, but it has gone up in attack dice, and it's quite useful on Into the Dark still because it gains lethal 5-up, and I still like it in general. So it's not amazing, but you have to remember there's no one dedicated operative that has the dynamite. When you are playing your opponent, they have to worry about the potential of every operative sans your grot or bomb, squig throwing the dynamite, which is why I still like it. It's a really good threat piece, and it has a 60% chance to roll a crit, which is really good for Daka. So I've been speaking to some Kommando players who have already seen the rules because this video has been recorded on the Saturday evening, but I think it's good. They don't think it's that great. I still, like, it's great for me if a Kommando player doesn't take it, but I still think it's worth taking. Then you've got collapsible stocks. So you add 4 inches to the ranged weapon rule of the following ranged weapons. So the Daka shooter, or short range. So it means your short range is now 10 inches instead of 6 inches. The shocker pistol, who now has a 12-inch range, and the slugger, who has a 12-inch range. Considering Kommandos have become a shooty team, I actually really like collapsible stocks, and generally I would recommend taking all 4 equipment types, but you may want to drop the dynamite for something else. I like the collapsible stocks. It just benefits what the teams wants to do and allows you to apply more threat range, and it gives you more threat range on the Daka boy, because now he has a 10-inch range for his CSUS profile. So I think it's great, but you may find other mileage from it. Then coming to operative selection, this is what I do for all kill team reviews now. For the boss knob, you always take the boss knob, but you basically always go the big chopper. The big chopper is really good now, especially because War now gives you balanced, and you've got punishing, so if you roll a crit, you can turn a miss into a hit. Overall, the chopper's still the best, but I would take the power claw into 7 wound operatives, because if you roll a crit, it's harder to do now, but if you roll a crit, you're instantly doing 7 damage, and you have brutal. So still quite useful there, but the power claw you only really take into certain kill teams like Exaction Squad. Then for the rest of your operatives, the great thing about Kommandos is it's basically a 1-box team. If you wanted to have more room onto Into the Dark, well, Gallo Dark, I'll get that onto a second, but generally you're taking all the specialists now, 1 boy, and then the bomb, squig, and grot. So that gives you 11 operatives overall. You should always take the bomb, squig, and grot just for that 11th activation, while also not increasing your kill up threshold. So very, very good there. Into elites, you may want to drop the breacher boy the burner boy for another boy, which is fine. And then on Into the Dark, you may want to drop the breacher boy for another boy, but you'll probably just take the burner instead. So at most, if you wanted to, you would need 1 extra commando boy and then another knob or knob magnetized, because for my team, I got an extra knob and an extra boy, so I could have all the options. But you don't need to. I think you can get away because now you would drop the Breacher Boy for the Burner Boy, because the Burner Boy is really useful on Into the Dark, well, Gallow Dark, whereas the Breacher Boy isn't so much, but that's really good. And then you can probably get away with just telling your opponent what your knob is armed with each game, because no one's too concerned in that regard. So it's basically a one-box team, and it's great. So yeah, that's all. You always want to take all the specialists. You could probably experiment with dropping the Sniper Boy if you don't like how static it is for another boy. But as I said, then you would need to buy like another boy as well. But they're a great one-box team. They're really good for learning the game as well as having a pretty high skill ceiling because you're always taking infiltration. So overall, Kommandos have been changed slightly. I still rate them as like a top 10 team, maybe even like top 7. They are very, very good. And I think they do really well into the elite meta because they're just so shooty now. They have lost a lot of melee output more than they had before. And I know some people are going to miss the guaranteed crits from War, but I think it's better with balance because now you have more rerolls, especially in melee. But this team is really, really good at control because you take surveillance, which you're basically going to max with the grot. Then you can just focus on the primary and staying away from your opponent. It's a really like lame way to play, but you pick your primary as your tac-op surveillance, and then you focus on the primary and just staying away from the opponent. If they come too close to you, you have like your Sniper Boy looking at the midpoint, then you've got your Rocket Boy as well, and you have all these threats for whoever goes onto the midpoint, you can just shoot. And even if you're getting rushed down by an elite player, if they're like sending one operative in at a time, they're going to die in return and you're going to win that trade. So they're not as aggressive as you would expect from Command, like orcs in general. They're actually very, very sneaky, which is quite thematic. But I think that makes them really interesting now, especially if your opponent has no way to guarantee crits. They're going to find it almost impossible to reliably cleave through your kill team without taking serious losses in return. So they're very good at a control play style, really shutting down your opponent, playing keep away. And you may not like that. You will notice they have a lot less of a punch, but you've got your harpoon for burst shooting. You're probably going to take more boys because you want those 4 attacks hitting on threes 4-5. But it's an interesting team. The only downside, it is only classified / yassified for 1 year, which is a downside. It depends how many events want to follow classification only. I know for my events, I probably would just keep them unclassified. So that may affect your choice, because if you're just hopping into Kommandos now, because this is in like September 2024, you effectively only have 1 year left to play competitively at Games Workshop events with this kill team. But otherwise, I still think it's really good. A fun kill team, oddly very, very shooty and still very sneaky. But that's pretty much it from me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Did you like it or not? What do you think of the Kommando changes? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, and a affiliate games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. Now quickly shout out my patrons. So for my adepts with the crew of Tom, Supercow, Steven, Sam, Nick, Mr. Meatwad, Mercenary Q, Lucas, John Thomas, Graham, Fangzu, Dave Meatswell, Dad of Goldens, Chris, Samja, and then for my veterans of the crew of Samja and Ryan. So thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, this will be one of my many faction reviews. If you have already watched them, please consider watching the rest of my Kill Team 3rd edition videos. But remember, no matter what happens when you're fighting the Orc Kommandos, there's always a chance to win and war as long as you can roll a crit.